The Tenant is a thriller released in 1976, directed by Roman Polanski.
It also stars Roman Polanski as Trelkovsky. He lives in Paris and he's looking for a new place to live, hence the title of the film. As the film starts, we find him, at a block of apartments, and he's come to look at one, and he's shown around by Shelley Winters, who's the concierge. She tells him how the previous tenant threw herself out the window, and even shows him where she did and fell through the glass below, and then has a little laugh about it as well.
Yeah.
So immediately you're like, this is a bit odd. Then he has a chat with the owner of the building, who agrees to rent him the apartment. All seems relatively normal at first, until all the sort of the other tenants of the building kind of treat him, I don't know, a little bit with contempt, or
a little bit.
Yeah, they're constantly complaining about the noise
Yeah.
coming from his apartment. So he starts to get a bit more paranoid. He goes to visit the former tenant, who despite trying to kill herself, hasn't quite succeeded. She's in hospital, bandaged head to foot,
And looking very similar to the body in Dead and Buried.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. There's no eye-piercing scenes in this, though.
No.
While he's there, he meets a friend of hers, played by Isabella Adjani. While they're at the hospital, this former tenant lets out this ear-piercing scream, so she's obviously not doing very well. Then he learns that she's died, and the apartment is his. Hooray!
Hooray, indeed.
So, but things start to get more and more odd as time goes on, and he becomes more and more paranoid, and the other tenants become more and more unpleasant towards him. Again, it's one of these films where you can't really, because you don't know what's going on, we can't really talk about it too much, because it gives things away. And obviously, you're along for the ride with this character, and you sort of find out things as he does. I mean, we just talked about The Machinist last week, and it's quite similar in that I think almost every scene Polanski is in it, isn't he? Christian Bale is in every single scene in Machinist, so you are with him the whole time, and you discover things as he is as well. Although, again, as in The Machinist, you're not always sure what is real and what isn't for some parts of the film. There comes a point in the film where you realise that, maybe what you thought was real isn't. Again, can't really say too much more without giving stuff away. But yeah, it's like a paranoid sort of thriller, where there's obviously something afoot. And from his view from his apartment, he can see there's a sort of shared toilet, and he can see into this toilet from his window, which is odd to begin with. But he sees people standing in there just staring at the wall for ages, like different tenants from the building. So again, that sort of sets off alarm bells with him. It's all a bit weird, to be honest.
It is.
And it just steadily gets weirder as the film goes on.
It gets weird as we go on. Yeah, so I suppose, it's like The Machinist we spoke about last week. We can't talk it's one of these films that you can't really talk too much in depth about it, because, you need to go and see it. I'm sure this is a much older film than The Machinist, so I'm sure there's a lot of people who watch our channel who probably have seen this film. If you haven't, go away and watch it. If you know it, then you know what we're not talking about. But I suppose you can give a little bit of a background on both the film and my reason for choosing this. So obviously, when we spoke about The Machinist, and we've spoken about this before, when I go for horror, I go for that descent into madness, and this for me is where my love for that genre came from. This film is a part of a trilogy that Polanski made, which features Repulsion, Rosemary's Baby, and this one. It's called the Apartment Trilogy, because all those films, they're all kind of descent into madness. Rosemary's Baby-ish, although it's set up that way, it doesn't end in, depends on how you feel about that film. Everyone's probably different, but they all feature. There's the main protagonist, and this person is kind of descending into their own personal hell. And of course they're all set in apartments. So that's where this trilogy comes from, and this is the last one in the trilogy. And this one is also different because it actually features Roman Polanski in the role himself, which makes it decidedly even more odd. There's some quite strange stuff in here. There's many films out there that do the whole descent into madness. I mean, I watched for the first time a few weeks ago. I picked it up on, I think Arrow, got it on Blu-ray. Images by Robert Altman, which is another kind of a woman suffering with schizophrenia. And I just love films, because those films you can really have fun with cinema. You can really have fun with visuals and making people confused and and surreal and absurd stuff. And I think obviously Hitchcock was famous for that.
Yeah.
There's Spellbound, which features similar techniques, and there's a weird dream sequence in that. There are many great filmmakers out there who love going into this territory. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've always enjoyed Polanski's stuff. I was introduced to his work. I think the first film of his I ever saw was Frantic, actually.
Right.
Which, although it's got a pretty terrible ending, it's a great fun film, and Harrison Ford is great in there.
I think that was probably the same for me, to be honest. Yeah, I think that was probably the first one.
He's Chinatown, Macbeth, all these these great films he made. But this goes to weird places. There are times in this film that you really feel like, am I in reality? Am I not in reality? What's and I like that confusion. Some films are confusing annoyingly, but then other times films are confusing where if you're riding along with the character and you're as confused as him, well, it's kind of doing its job, I think, in a way.
I certainly was confused.
Yeah,
That.
Exactly. And there's also some wonderful. I don't know if it's a spoiler to say. There's some. This has got some great in-camera effects. There's a whole sequence in the film where he gets quite ill, and it kind of goes to he really plays with. Without doing, nowadays it'll all be done with CGI. And this is another thing, this is why I often question why CGI isn't used weirder than, you could have so much fun with CGI in a kind of surreal, absurd manner. Yet they just use it to create big robots and big, superheroes crashing through buildings in America. And I think, but you've got CGI. I mean, almost going back to something like Terminator 2, which did really weird stuff with CGI. I'm often shocked why why filmmakers aren't using CGI and doing really weird, surreal stuff with it.
I know.
Maybe there
I'm
are.
sure there
maybe
are
there
probably
are,
are films
and
that
I'm
do
not.
that.
Yeah, possibly.
You should watch them.
I haven't seen them. No, exactly. But so he has a lot of fun in this one with kind of. It's hard. Again, it's hard to talk about without because if you haven't seen it, this is one of these films. If you haven't seen it, I recommend going and checking it out. I could talk about this, Fraser, because I really enjoy it.
I can tell.
So let's go from because you hadn't seen it.
I hadn't seen it. No. I mean, I got on board with it straight away. I was intrigued by the mystery. Again, like you, I do enjoy that sort of film. Where there's obviously confusion between reality and real life, and is somebody. Is there a conspiracy, or is it all in his head, and things like that? And so I was on board with that. It is a bit strange, but it kind of lost me in the third act, and I was like, no, I'm not really buying into this, to be honest. And the ending, I guessed that what the ending was going to be. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I guess that. So I mean, because it's one of these films where it's probably been
copied.
Yeah. So I kind of. Yeah, I just went to the obvious place that would be the most bizarre. I was like, yeah, that was what it was.
Yeah.
So it didn't really surprise me.
No, I think
it was just how it got there. It was a bit odd, and the whole what the point of any of it was. Again, I think towards the end you're still not 100% sure what is real and what isn't. Parts of it obviously it is, but other parts you're like, well. Was there a conspiracy? What about this bit? And what was going on there? So it left me a little bit confused. And I'm not asking for everything to be explained. I enjoyed the journey there.
Sure.
But yeah, I felt it didn't buy into the ending, unfortunately. There's a lot of dubbing in it, but I think it's intentionally weird because I was like, Christ, this is really bad. It's like a spaghetti western or something, or a lot of the like Fulci films. I mean, obviously Shelley Winters was American. She's speaking, in her own voice, and I think the guy that owns the building,
Melvin Douglas.
Yeah, that's it. I don't think he's dubbed. But like his workmates, when they had that party,
they were
going really ridiculous American accents, and it's like, what the hell? What I read about it, that was all intentional. It was supposed to be like that for some reason. I mean, I think that the point is that considering they're in Paris, only Polanski and the other tenant that seems to be sort of put upon by all the other residents in the building, they're the only ones that speak in their own accents. And I think that's, again, it's supposed to be like frame them as sort of outsiders. There's lots of sort of subtext going on in the film, and that's part of it. That's why everyone else is dubbed and speaks an American accent, and those characters don't. It's supposed to represent, a feeling of isolation and things like that, and an outsider. and stuff like that. And and I can appreciate that. And while I didn't initially pick up on that, once I read that, I was like, okay, I get that now. Yeah. So I thought, well, okay, I won't be as harsh on it for the dubbing because there was a reason for it.
Yeah.
It wasn't just because they were lazy and couldn't be bothered to do any better. It was like that. It's like that for a reason.
Okay.
So
yeah, again, the whole film, it does. You feel isolated, and it feels, you get the sense like when he's in his flat it possibly is. It feels like it's kind of closing in on himself. The whole thing's getting more claustrophobic, and which it possibly is. The camera, obviously, the angles change, and
there's a shot at the end where he walks away from the camera, I think, doesn't he, towards the window, and obviously the set is, all the furniture is oversized. And it has this really weird effect where he's suddenly smaller as he walks through the window. He's smaller than.
So that's during the dream sequence, because I wasn't sure whether to he has this. Well, we could put it in. It's the Lord of the Rings effect, isn't it? It's when you walk. What do they call it as a name?
Trombone.
Is that what it is?
Where you zoom
no.
in while you move away?
That's the other thing where they used in countless films, isn't it? Where that's a different one. No, this is when it's false perspective. That's what this is.
Right.
So you're basically, he has this dream sequence, and obviously if you haven't seen the film, go away now. He has this dream sequence, and he comes back. He goes off to the toilet, and of course the toilet we mentioned before, and that's kind of comes into play quite a bit. And then he goes back to his room, and the stairs are all over the place, a bit Escher-like, and it gets all quite twisted, and off camera, it's angled weird, and you're starting to feel, what's going on? It gets a bit
because you don't initially realise that it is a dream sequence.
No, and then the next shot, and then the next, that's right, and then the next shot you're in, he's sitting near his bed, which we've seen originally, and then he gets up and he kind of stumbles down towards his bed, and the bed suddenly gets really big, and he gets really small, and it's that false perspective effect that they use in Lord of the Rings to make the hobbits look tiny, much smaller. It's that kind of effect, but it's done really well. When I first saw that, I was like, what? I'd seen this before Lord of the Rings. I was like, what is going on? And my God, it almost makes you feel quite queasy. It's almost worth seeing it, but then you need to see the whole film for that to really work on you. And I think that's why this is my favourite out of those three films of his, is because he really has fun with different strange effects, and I love it for that. I adore this film for that kind of that one sequence, because it's so out there and odd and off-putting and disorientating and everything. Yeah, I think the ending is odd. There's a wonderful moment where you see all the other tenants kind of out, and they're kind of cheering him. I won't say what's happening in that sequence, but it's quite an odd moment. The camera kind of pans around the whole building, and at one point it looks like they're actually watching him from an audience in the theatre. And the whole film is weird. It's just weird. But he's whatever you think of him, I think he's a master of filmmaking. We said last week when we did The Machinist that I enjoyed The Machinist, but it didn't completely work for me, and I suppose technically it didn't completely work for me. Brian De Palma is obviously he's been inspired by Hitchcock, and a lot of people say he rips him off. And Polanski too has been inspired by people like Hitchcock, that kind of cinema. But I think Polanski he understands what he's doing, and he gets what he's doing, and he's kind of an innovative filmmaker of his time. Not anymore. His films have gone right down now. Terrible films he's making recently.
So I watched it on Amazon Prime, because it's available on there right now, kids. Did you watch it on there, or did you?
This time I did watch it on Amazon Prime,
right?
Because I have it on DVD, but I don't really have a DVD. I mainly watch Blu-rays nowadays. I know you can watch DVDs on Blu-ray player, obviously.
Yeah.
But I have my DVD collection and my Blu-ray collection are in different places.
Right.
So I tend not to watch the DVDs anymore, and I don't have it on Blu-ray. But this time I watched it on Amazon Prime. But I do have it on. I have it on this set, which has got Rosemary's Baby and Chinatown.
Well, I don't know. It's not the Apartment Trilogy, then.
No, I don't know why they haven't got that one. I suppose maybe rights,
different
and things like that.
Distributor or something, maybe.
Possibly, yeah. So this has just got it's the film, nothing else on it.
There's no American or UK Blu-ray release of it. I think there's an Australian release recently, but so not widely available on Blu-ray.
Right.
But I think often you watch stuff on Amazon Prime and the picture's pretty terrible, but it looked all right. So I think it might be the sort of the Blu-ray version that's on there.
And that was a Tenant. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comments below.
Yep, hit the subscribe button up there, and don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. There's some other videos to check out over there. Come and find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and join us next week for another video.